Welcome again. Again, this meeting will be recorded as we want to make sure that we're able to have the audio available for all the stakeholders who are unable to make it today. So we wanted to start off with a little bit of fun and introductions. So in the chat, please make sure you write your role. So parent, student, teacher, district office official, community representative, and then what your name. We always want to make sure we have some introductions of name, and then what your mood is right now. So do you need lots and lots of coffee? Are you dancing like Ted Lasso? There is a parent here. I did see them pop on. Mr. Cavallano is here. And we're so excited to have you here with us again. I know she's been on our advisory for a few years now. So make sure you go in the chat. This is how we're going to be taking roll. Ms. Cadlan, your hand is raised. Did you want to introduce yourself at all?
I think she was just saying that she's a parent.
She is a parent, a wonderful parent of our students. All right, I'm so happy to see some fives. I understand, Mr. Everett and Ms. McDonald, that we need some coffee. I have mine, courtesy of Charlotte Vega today. So, because we're starting out, as we said, we want to make sure we're inclusive of your opinion. Your feedback is very critical during this time. So we want to hear from you on what your experiences are. We don't need everybody to speak up, but if you want to share in the chat or raise your hand on what you've been experiencing this school year. This year is unique on how we have approached it, on even how we're reflecting on data, which you will see. We know everybody is having a different experience, and we just wanted to do a check-in. You're able to share in the chat, raise your hand and speak, or we do have a Padlet provided where you can just document how this school year is starting for you, as we are facing unique challenges this year compared to years past. Maybe there's a teacher who's willing to share. I know we have a couple wonderful teachers on there today.
I'm willing to share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Ms. Lacera.
Nobody wants to talk. Actually acting just like the students. Nobody wants to talk. It's like maybe one of the greatest or the biggest differences I've noticed is that students are really reluctant to participate. I mean, I love to talk, as you guys know. And my classes have always been very interactive, lots of communication, lots of great classroom conversations. But this year I noticed that it's like pulling teeth to get students to, you know, share their ideas. Even in when we do, you know, think, pair, share or anything like that, they have to prepare their ideas on paper before they're even willing to take the risk of opening their mouths and joining a conversation. And that, for a language arts teacher, that's really difficult because a lot of what we do is, especially if we're learning English, we want to communicate, we want to hear your pronunciation, practice the vocabulary. So it has been a major challenge for me.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know we also have some administrators on the Zoom, if either one of you would like to share just how this is different this year in comparison to the years past. Ms. Usher, I'm looking at you.
I wasn't sure if Alexis was going to talk. I didn't want to. I think this year we just have a lot more opportunities to counsel students and to create interventions for students. We all know that our students, as well as our staff, have had a lot of trauma in their life, and really as a staff and as a school and really as a district and a community, we're all just really learning how to deal with that, and what interventions our students need, as well as what interventions our staff needs, because I think really everybody's in the same position. So that's really what we're working on right now, is how to get students back on track, not only academically, but also social emotionally.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I know that we do have a lot of counselors here, not only from Centennial, but from our middle schools. I'm so excited to see Mrs. Mers. And we have Mrs. McDowell too, who is not only a counselor, but a parent in our community. So I'm more than happy to hear from one more person if anyone wants to share.
You know, I would just piggyback off of, you know, what you guys are all saying. This is Susanna Mars, if you can't see. I am at El Cerrito Middle School, and one of the concerns or bigger concerns we're seeing is just that gap in their socialization. Being out for a good year and a half or so has definitely impacted their abilities to make positive choices, positive behavior choices, and just kind of getting caught up in some of that, and how to act in a class appropriately. And not just behaviorally, but I agree too, academically. They're very reserved. They don't want to necessarily share or even ask for help, or know how to ask for help. So we're doing a lot of interventions as well to support those gaps. And we've had some outside agencies come into our school system to be able to support that. So we're really excited for the extra support as well, because being counselors, it can be a challenge trying to navigate the system. And that's why the advisory committee here is a wonderful starting point to kind of really see what is working, what might need to be implemented, and get feedback for that. So awesome job.
So thank you so much. And so, as I said, there is a Padlet. I put it in the chat and I will drop it in there again. If you have comments or questions throughout the presentation, more so comments or things that you want to add, please feel free to go ahead and add it. So moving on to today's agenda. So we're going to be covering a couple of different things. We're going to do a brief overview of the Ask a National model, which is the framework for school counseling in across the nation. We're also going to touch on our vision and mission statement and our classroom and group mindsets and behaviors action plan. So we're going to be teaching you a little bit about school counseling. We're also going to be covering some data. So we're going to do a data summary of some big points that were standing out for us today, and then talk about our goals. So we have our 2 annual student outcome goals, and one of them, we have a sub goal from it called our closing the gap. So we have a fun-filled presentation today. We are so happy to have you all here. Please feel free to share. We are so thankful to have the people who did share today already. And now I'm going to pass it over to our wonderful counselor intern, Mrs. Gavella. She's going to be covering the Ask a National model.
Thank you. So exactly, before we dive into getting into all of our goals and the data, we just wanted to teach you all a little bit about the framework that we follow, which is called the Ask a National model. So this is our little crash course for it. And the Ask a National model is essentially a framework for the design, implementation, and evaluation of school counseling programs. It was developed to help move school counseling from a responsive service to more of an active service for every student. And it also reinforces the idea that school counselors help every student improve their academic achievement, navigate social emotional learning, and prepare for successful careers after graduation. So Ask a National model school counseling programs, if you are following it, which we are based on data-informed decision-making. We deliver our program to all students systematically, so a universal approach. We include a developmentally appropriate curriculum, so for every grade level. We focus on the mindsets and behaviors all students need for post-secondary readiness and success. So throughout our lessons, we are teaching those mindsets and behaviors to students so they can master them. We close the gaps in achievement and opportunity, and our program is created to have a significant positive impact on student achievement, attendance, and discipline. And so the Ask a National model is broken down into these 4 components: manage, assess, deliver, and define. So as we have defined, that is basically our standards that help new and experienced school counselors develop, implement, and assess their school counseling program to improve student outcomes. And under that, we have student standards that we implement, and we also have professional standards that we also abide by. We also have deliver, which is our direct and indirect services. And so for direct, that is where we are directly in contact with students. So whether that's instruction, counseling, or advisement and appraisal. And we also have indirect services, which affect students, whether it be through teacher or parent consultation or collaboration and referrals. And we also have manage. In order to deliver our program effectively, we need to manage it effectively. And that is done through program focus, like stating our beliefs and our vision and mission statement. And then also through planning. So looking at our annual student outcome goals, doing action and lesson plans, and then also keeping track of our use of time through calendars, both annual and weekly. And then after all that is said and done, we want to make sure that we are assessing our program's effectiveness. And so we do that through school counseling program assessment, annual results reports, and we also assess and appraise school counselors and ourselves and the work that we are doing. And so in order to ensure that we are delivering our program effectively, this is just a template, an example of our annual calendar. And so this is how we manage our time spent with students. So according to the Ask a National model, school counselors should spend at least 80% of their time providing direct and indirect services. So like I said, direct would be direct contact with students, instruction, counseling, advisement, and appraisal. And then indirect are those teacher, parent, admin, outside agency referrals and consultations. And then school counselors should spend 20% or less of their time on program planning and school support.
I put in the chat our published school calendar, so it is on our website available for people to view. In addition, we also will be updating it almost monthly because, as you know, things change from day to day.
Thank you, Ms. Gavella. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zyra Niazi, and like was said at the beginning, I am one of the counseling interns. I am going to give you just a brief overview of the classroom and group mindsets and the behavior action plan. Please feel free to click the link that was just put in the chat to explore our counseling action plan. ASCA standards are based on a review of research and college and career readiness documents that have identified strategies that make an impact on student achievement and academic performance. The 35 standards are arranged within categories and subcategories based on non-cognitive factors. And just to list a few of these factors: persistence, resilience, help-seeking, self-discipline, motivation, work habits, homework completion, learning strategies, study skills, and among many others. Here at Centennial, the counseling department delivers direct services in large group, classroom, and small group settings. The choice of content is very intentional. Counselors want to make sure they are delivering on the 3 domains: academic, career, and social emotional development, while at the same time meeting ASCA standards. So for example, counselors are in the classroom delivering college and career readiness presentations. They are fulfilling standards such as the mindset standard, teaching students to have a positive attitude toward work or learning, or the standard of critical thinking skills to make informed decisions. And when our intervention counselor, Ms. Grotham, holds her small groups, she helps meet the behavior standards for self-management skills by giving students the ability to manage transitions and adapt to change. As you can see here, counselors are staying busy. Not only are they meeting with students individually, but they are also doing classroom presentations, running small groups, and making sure that the Centennial Counseling Department is meeting all the mindset and behavior standards. At this time, we want to hear from you. You learned a lot just in this short time about school counseling standards and how we carefully select these mindsets and behaviors. Are there any questions for our current plan? Also, don't forget that we have the Padlet, so you can always write anything on there.
For the students that are not meeting some of the goals and the standards that they have, what's the plan for them? Is there a plan that you see they're not consistently meeting? They need a little bit more than what you have in your plan. Is there a alternative plan for such students that need a little extra support or extra help?
So for example, when we have a lesson, if we do a classroom lesson and we notice that a vast majority of the students, for example, with our sophomore lesson, we covered a lot of information on K through D requirements, credits, graduation, and we assess on that. So we assess them to see if they're understanding the content that we teach. If we notice that there's a large population missing a very important component, we're going to reteach that skill either in an additional presentation or a large group workshop. We've had a couple of large group workshops with students to make sure they're really grasping the information. For example, with our senior lesson, we covered our post-secondary options and started our financial aid modules. And I noticed that some of my students were not doing their financial aid modules. So we're going even further and pulling them in with the help of Ms. Villalobos. We're inviting them in to make sure that they're getting that extra assistance with their financial aid applications and college applications. So if we do see that they're not gaining as we would like, then we're making sure that we're able to address those areas.
I have a question about when I was looking at the AFTA standards, one of them said developmentally appropriate curriculum. Is that with regard to the counseling curriculum, what you are teaching students, or is it regarding the curriculum at large for the school?
It's regards to what we're teaching students. So for example,
What counselors are teaching students?
yes, counselors with the counseling department. So we're making sure we're not like, for example, with our seniors, we do our senior exit interviews. We ask that our senior plan with their individual learning plan, like, what are you committing to? We're not going to ask a freshman, what are you committing to? Let's make the decision now. We want to give them their options.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify because if it were, as far as if it were a standard that the entire school was being held to, then we would have some considerations for not only developmentally appropriate, but also linguistically appropriate. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the classroom and group mindsets and behavior action plan? All right, so Ms. Niazi, go ahead and continue.
Okay, so the vision statement in front of you is our vision statement. Keep in mind with the new strategic plan, the district's vision and mission statement was revised, and we will be ensuring that we are aligned as a school counseling program. The vision we desire for our students is that by the time they graduate and leave Centennial, they are able to accept challenges, embrace diversity, and overcome obstacles. By ensuring that we are fulfilling the 3 domains, academic, career, and social emotional, we guarantee that the student will reach their full potential and meet the demands of the 21st century workforce. Now moving on to the mission. I just want to highlight a few key points in the mission statement. The first being, our students are our highest priority. The counseling team dedicates themselves to students to make sure every student is treated with respect and dignity. We also continue to advocate for each student individual, empowering them to pursue their post-secondary aspirations. I am now going to pass it over to Miss Amber Thompson to go over some data with you.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Okay, so we, as you know, and we've talked about, we're definitely dedicated to providing comprehensive data-driven school counseling programs. So going over into the next slide, the district strategic plan includes comprehensive school counseling based on ASCA model and working on professional development to improve our programs. Centennial is completely aligned with the district strategic goals. And so it's actually exciting that the strategic plan has so much about counseling in it, because I feel like that it's not something, it's new, we'll put it that way. And so we're definitely aligning with those goals and focusing our efforts on improving our program. So through professional development and making sure that we're fully aligned in every single way, from excellence to well-being and equity. On the next slide, you will see when it goes, yes. So what you see here is our graduation rate compared to CNUSD and Corona High, and then we also have our English learners there. The reason we put Corona High is because Corona is the school that has the demographic that is most comparable to ours here at Centennial. As you see throughout this chart, our graduation rate here at Centennial is pretty much the same as the CNUSD graduation rate. You see our English learners have a slightly lower and significantly lower in certain years graduation rate, which has led us to actually adding a new counselor who is specifically for EL students to hopefully address that gap and get these students graduated more efficiently and effectively. All right, and so one thing here to note on this slide with the students off track is last year's juniors, which is this year's seniors, are getting the AB 11, or I'm sorry, what is it? AB 104, there's so many. AB 104, which means that they can graduate with less than 220, all the way down to 130 credits. So we selected to use this current year juniors in order to focus our efforts on them, because they're the ones who clearly have, they're significantly off track compared to previous years. And we don't have as much available for them like we do our current seniors as far as the AB 104 and graduation rates. So you can see over the years how the off trackness has changed, with this current school year being by far the worst we've had. And we all know that's because of the pandemic and all of the stuff everyone had to endure. All right, so from the data we just looked at, we're going to go into breakout rooms and just briefly discuss what we all saw and go over if we have any questions or anything we want to bring back to the group. And our interns will be in each breakout room and they will be taking notes for us.
All right, welcome back. I popped in a couple of breakout rooms and there's some great feedback going on. Don't forget that we do have that Padlet to record any feedback you have. But before we move on to talking about our goals, did anybody have anything that they really wanted to share?
I would like to share something that was mentioned during our breakout session from the amazing Dr. Burrill. She had mentioned that looking at that data, right, you see the numbers, and that's just credit deficiency. That doesn't actually show the social and emotional learning part that some of our students are missing with some of those classes.
I couldn't agree more. I think that there's, we see, and when I went into the rooms, I noticed there was a lot of conversation regarding the credit deficiencies and what we're seeing here. Because what it does not capture breaking down on how far behind credit deficiency is. For us, it's if a student is unable to, it varies by year, but for freshmen, we looked at 40 credits are lower than 40 credits. For sophomores, it was under 100 or under 100 credits, and then for juniors 160. So they're not able to make it up during summer school. But it even doesn't show you more, which we are going to talk a little bit about the different interventions we're doing. But for example, our ninth graders, I know that are in here, we have at least 37 students who have 0 to 5 credits now as sophomores. So it's not capturing the complete picture, but it is giving you a glimpse of why we were selected our goals.
And Ms. Goddard, just to add on that, one of the things, just addressing that social emotional piece, when we talk about the maturity that some of our freshmen and sophomores have not had those social experiences in order to push them forward socially. So I think one of the rubs, and I know that we've talked about this, and one of the things we have to address and that we continue to address is their maturity is not caught up to where their academic expectation is. And so what that provides is that responsibility, some of those maturity factors that come with understanding the magnitude of your high school transcript and the importance of it is very difficult for them to grasp. And so we're looking at, okay, how do we mature these students faster and accelerate that learning in order to help it catch up with their academic expectations? And so I applaud our counseling team, our administration for really looking at that, and our parents of knowing and supporting. I know that we've had a lot of parent support in terms of, okay, how do we help your kid get where they need to be at this point in time as a high school student, even though they really didn't have much of a junior high experience or they didn't have a ninth grade experience, right?
Absolutely. So like our sophomores, we often say, they never had their freshman year in a traditional freshman year. They didn't finish their 8th grade year in a traditional way. And with that social maturity is lacking. And I was a middle school counselor for almost 10 years. And I will tell you, there's so much need in middle school counselors. And I applaud the 2 that we have on here today, because I feel like it really does help when they get to high school understand. Even if in middle school you're saying a million times, in high school, if you fail a class, you're going to not earn those credits. But our students didn't even have those pre-warnings that they usually do in middle school from those counselors. So leading to our sophomore goal. So based on the data, we identified our current sophomores, so last year's 9th graders, and our current juniors, last year's 10th graders, as our areas of focus. Our first goal is by 2022 or June 2022, 10th grade students who earned 40 or less credits in 9th grade, so our students who are off track, and have 2 or more Fs at Q1 interim will decrease the number of Fs by 25% from 366 F grades to 274. So this group is 111 students spread over all of our caseloads, and we have that 111 students has 366 F grades at the Q1 interim. What we're trying to do is make sure these students are not falling behind anymore. As a sophomore, it's really hard to recover from that freshman year. even more so if you're not passing your current classes. So our goal is really focused on getting them to pass their current classes. I adopted the mindset and behavior of having a positive attitude towards work and learning, because we didn't have that transition, and which leads us to our next one, ability to manage transition and adapt to change. We're really focusing on our sophomores on trying to help them adapt this to this year, and understand what it means to be a high school student, and hopefully having a positive attitude with learning and being a Centennial Husky. Our second goal is for our juniors. So by June 2022, the credit deficient students in the class of 2023 will decrease the number of credit deficient students by 25% from 146 students to 110. For these students, we're having a different approach. We're focusing on credits because, as we know, credits is what they need for graduation. And with this, we're doing a variety of different things, but really wrapping around and trying to help them focus on self-motivation and self-direction to learning. We're also trying to instill some self-discipline and the self-control of meeting their goal. So with some of the work that we're doing, it's really trying to help motivate them again, because they have lost a lot of hope for this last year. And for some of them, it's just when we talk to them, it's all they want is somebody to check in on them. All they want is somebody to help keep them on track, because they didn't have that from a school standpoint for the last year. If they didn't log on to the Zoom, there wasn't always somebody right there saying, hey, what are you doing? You need to be on Zoom because you need to get your credits. And I know our teachers tried as much as they did, but it is a very different experience being online and trying to reach a student than having a student who's absent from your classroom and missing out of that seat. There's a very different approach on how we can address things. So this is why we selected our junior goal. So for our fall lesson, so we wanted to do an overview of what we're doing, but we didn't want to just tell you what we're doing with our juniors and our sophomores. For our freshmen, we conduct our bullying prevention lesson and self-injury to suicide prevention lessons, as well as the college and career readiness, where we're using California colleges to have them take their interest profiler. For sophomores, we do our sophomore academic counseling presentation, where we include everything on credits, A through G. I'm blanking on all of their stuff, but because it's such a packed presentation full of information about post-secondary options, college options as far as trade school, 2-year, 4-year, all the different options available to them. And then our college and career readiness, where they're taking the multiple intelligence assessment on California colleges. For our juniors, we have their junior grade level conference. It's really focusing on getting them prepared for their post-secondary options, understanding all of their options, and if they are behind in credit recovery, we cover in detail what their options are. And so that is given to all of our juniors across our campus. We also have them do the college and career readiness activity, do what you are. We're really focused with them on having a career exploration so they understand their option for their post-secondary goals. For our seniors, it's really laying out their post-secondary option and having them select a plan of what they plan on doing to help us guide the discussion as counselors. We also do their senior individual learning plan audit meeting, where we meet with seniors individually to go over what classes they need for graduation, but also having that time to have those one-on-one discussions on what's next. What are you going to do at the end of this year when you are now a Centennial graduate? For our students who are off track and need a little assistance, we discuss the credit recovery options for them at that time. For the spring, we do course selection and individual learning plan meetings for our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. For our seniors, we are focused on our individual learning plan audit meetings that we had in the fall, but updated to see what classes they passed in the fall semester. In this, we also do at the end of the year our senior exit interviews, where at the beginning of the year, we ask them what their plan was, and at the end of the year, we want a solidified plan. We want to know if they're going to a college, what acceptance letter they have, if they've signed up for the military, if they're going to a trade school. We want to know what they're doing once they leave Centennial. Individual learning plan meetings for our freshmen, sophomore, and juniors. That's our time where we're laying out what classes they need to take the following year, as well as discussing summer school or credit recovery options at that time. For our director support for our juniors specifically related to this goal. So those are the 146 students that we are wrapping our arms around trying to support intentionally. We are currently running some small groups. It is a 4-week group on goal setting, resilience and self-discipline, time management, and planning and next steps. So we're looking at reflecting to the next steps of next semester, where they're at, evaluating where they are at their goal, and looking at what else we can do. I will say for myself, I ran my group yesterday with all of my juniors, and it was really nice connecting with them and hearing what their goals are. Having them, we talked about SMART goal and making sure that we're taking the proper steps to achieving it, because we really want them to feel supported on reaching it. And I specifically told them, make sure you're reaching your goal, setting a small goal, and then we can set another goal. Just because you meet one doesn't mean that we're going to stop. We're going to keep going until we get them to graduation and beyond. We're also doing individual meetings, a brief check-in with those students, discussing our credit recovery class advisement, making sure they're in the right credit recovery classes to become no longer credit deficient, talking about their post-secondary plan, and checking in with the teachers on progress monitoring to ensure that they are on track. I know we have some wonderful credit recovery teachers, including one that's here today with us, Mr. Everett, who is great at communicating how students are doing in their credit recovery class, and when they're done, and can move on to a new one. We also started our Saturday Success Academy. So this started as an idea that Ms. Orozco and I put together in 3 days, and this last Saturday, we had over 86 students attend. We had myself, Ms. Orozco, Ms. Thompson, and Dr. Brill, all there supporting students, as well as some of our wonderful interns that are volunteering their time. So peer tutoring is available to support our students. And so it's an intentional intervention that we invite all of our students in our junior and our sophomore group, as well as open it up to anybody who needs an extra assistance. For our sophomore direct interventions, for our tier 2, we are lucky enough to have the wonderful rescue generation, which I'm so glad that Brandon and Nelson are here today, working with a small group of our sophomores. We invited all of our sophomores who had 0 to 5 credits. So that was 37 sophomores that were invited. And I still invite every single week to attend their intervention. And then we're talking about what tentative small group workshops can we organize for the spring semester. We're still looking at the need. With our sophomores, they weren't really on our campus, so we're trying to see where they are and how we can assist them and support them before diving into additional interventions. We are doing individual meetings and brief check-ins with those students who need a little bit extra assistance. Every week we run a list of how they're doing academically, so counselors are able to check in with those students who are struggling in the multiple classes. And as I said, we have the Saturday Success Academy, which we're so excited because it's been a very, I would say, big success. We see students coming and getting work done from only 2 assignments because it's math and it's really difficult for them, to 10 assignments that they just needed to sit down and get done. And now I'm going to pass it on to the wonderful Ms. Orozco to discuss our Closing the Gap goal.
Thank you, Alexis. And hello, everyone. If I have yet to meet you, my name is Nikki Orozco. I am the EML school counselor at Centennial, and my caseload is dedicated to our students who are a part of our English Learner Program. And EML stands for Emerging Multilingual Learners, a term that we are trying to adopt at Centennial that we feel strengthens the linguistic foundation for our students whose primary language is a language other than English. So this year, we noticed the highest percentage of juniors who are credit deficient, meaning that they are below 100 credits, are our EML juniors. It was clear that there was a need to support and create interventions specifically for these students. Based on the data that you see in front of you, we were able to create a goal to reduce the number of credit deficient EML junior students that being that by June 2022, the credit deficient students in the class of 2023 are identified as English language learners will decrease the number of credit deficient students by 25% from 41 students to 30 students. So in order to close the gap of credit deficient EML students and accomplish this goal, it's necessary to focus on 4 different areas. Can you click to the next slide, please? Thank you. So first and foremost, focusing on the individual student, making sure to meet with the student one-on-one, opening the opportunity for students to recover their credits by planning them or placing them, in credit recovery courses, continuing to monitor their progress weekly with pulse reports, as well as creating individual learning plans for each individual student in order to provide them with a visual on how we will work together to recover their credits. Next, along with their junior peers, inviting students to participate in small group interventions. With small group support, it creates that sense of community for students to know that they're not alone. It provides them with the necessary tools and skills in order to be successful in and out of the classroom. And it creates those individual goals and also allows students to reflect on their progress. And then we go into another crucial aspect of our goal, and that is teacher collaboration. Without the support, insight, awareness from our ELD teachers, our students would not be supported in the way that they are. Rosia Lacera, our EL coordinator, models this collaboration effectively. And since I've stepped into this role and become a member of the team, I've witnessed her advocacy to ensure that our EML students are provided with an equitable education here at Centennial, which in turn motivates me to become an ally and advocate just the same. So teacher collaboration contributes to the goal by English learner goal setting, redesignated fluent English proficiency monitoring, elevation training, which is a database that keeps track of our EML students' progress, data dives, taking a look into the current data and disaggregating it after, our English language proficiency assessment in California, also known as LPAC, preparation training, which measures listening, speaking, reading, and writing, an assessment that is administered every spring semester. Lastly, in order to have the student buy into the program and opportunities that they have been presented with, we must first educate our parents and or caregivers to support students from their home base. So in order to ensure parents and caregivers are involved, it's important for me to provide updates on students' progress, communicate through emails and phone calls, more letter updates that give families an overview on what's to come that month from the counseling team. I make sure to participate in our English Learner Advisory Committee, known as ELAC. Those meetings take place once a month and are hosted by Ms. Lacera. The meetings advise and inform families on the programs and services that Centennial offers, as well as taking part in our Institute for Quality Education, also known as PIQUE. And those meetings take place weekly over a 9-week period of time, and it provides hands-on workshops, seminars, supports for our EML families to better understand the American education system, as well as become active members in their students' education. So now with the information that you have received, we continue to encourage feedback and questions. And now we'll be moving into breakout rooms. So Alexis, if you can break it down for us.
You're back again? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I see we've been putting some things on our Padlet, so I have added it in the chat just one more time. And I do want to hear from the group. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I heard here some great conversations. And if every group could have one person just speak to what was talked about in that group. So if you were in Ms. Orozco's group, does anybody would like to share about what the conversation that was occurring in that room?
We've nominated Miss Catalano to go ahead and share.
Yes.
Oh, Dr. Burrell. I think it was spoken so beautifully by you. So I'm going to pass that baton.
Oh, okay, I see how it is. All right. No, we were again just talking about the expectations of the kids and how you know, some of our parents in our group were talking about just, you know, the struggle of, you know, the kids not wanting to ask for help and not wanting to reach out and just sitting back and almost kind of just taking it all in without showing any initiative or no advocacy for themselves. And we were just talking about how, you know, a lot of that is they don't have any idea where they're supposed to be. We're the only people, the adults in the community are the only people who know where they're supposed to be, right? They're just existing exactly where they think they're supposed to be. And that's where the rub is, right? We are expecting this and they are not fully aware, and that's part of our job, right? It takes the whole community. It takes our parents, teachers, all of our staff. It takes the community, coaches, everybody to work to help to get these kids to where we know they need to be so they can be successful when they leave us, right? So yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, parents. You wonderful insight. We appreciate you.
If I could add one thing to that, I've never felt in this process that I was alone in it as a parent. Every time I've reached out to teachers, to my daughter has a Miss Thompson, which is amazing. I've always been supported. So I think it's more of my own child not discussing her difficulties until she feels overwhelmed. And then I've reached out, and every time I have, I've been fully supported. So you guys are really doing a great job with that.
Thank you so much for sharing. We love to hear the feedback from our parents, especially. And now, speaking of Miss Thompson's room, does anyone want to share what the conversation was in there?
I would like to share what we were talking about. We were discussing what a difference it makes to have a dedicated counselor for our English learners. And I am just so grateful that it finally happened before I retired. As she corrected me, I thought it was 14 years I had been advocating for this, but Ms. Thompson said, no, it's been 16. You've been wanting this for 16 years. So I am just so thankful, the difference that it makes for her to come into our classrooms, to have that one-on-one relationship with our students. Everybody knows her. She helps everybody. She's so conscientious of every detail. We talk almost every day. And so the amount of support that these students are experiencing is fabulous. And then the suggestion Ms. Thompson made about the possibility of forming an actual credit recovery specifically for English learners is a conversation I've had with my lovely Dr. Burrell many times, and hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that as well. And then we were talking about how realistic the goals are that the counseling department has set. All three goals, 25% decrease in Fs and increase in graduation, and all those great goals. I think that they are very smart because they are specific and they are measurable and attainable, and all the other wonderful things that go into SMART goal setting. And I can't wait to see how everything turns out. But thank you so much for the powers that be for finally getting us our dedicated counselor. And as Ms. Thompson was discussing also, the caseload and how, we hope that the caseload for counselors can at some point be reduced, because it was adding the dedicated counselor, it was adding another person that, took over and became the dedicated counselor for English learners. And that really helped to, lower their caseloads. And hopefully at some point we'll be able to lower it even more so they can have that opportunity to come into the classrooms and establish that relationship. And she is now working with the Emoja group. And so she has that same connection with the Emoja team and the Emoja students. Thank you so much.
Yes, I will definitely speak. This has been my lowest caseload I have ever had in all of my years as a school counselor, and it is fantastic. And we always appreciate lowering our caseload size. So from Dr. Gomez's room, does anyone want to share?
I'll go ahead and share. Ms. Roberts brought up a good point earlier, and she actually stated that a lot of her avid students like went to summer school, and it was great that the district actually had given us the opportunity for kids to take 4 classes during 2 terms. So she was hoping that, you know what I mean, the district would take that into consideration after this year in order to get our students up to par. But the district also did something that they've never had before, is implemented a model credit recovery program. So right now, I think we're running maybe 5 or 6 credit recovery programs like at our school, like, which is really great in order to alleviate the credit deficiency among all grade levels. So we'll have to reassess the need, you know, after first semester, see where we're at, and maybe we might need more credit recovery programs at our school, and then reassess after second semester, see if we have to put on another 4 classes, you know, or a 2-term summer school as well. So that was talked about, and that was a great point, because she's, like I stated, a lot of her students did attend summer school, and they were able to get caught up like with their classes in order to remain A through G, not only graduation requirements, but we need to find a way to keep these kids, you know, either on the A through G track or completing CTE pathways, or with our other AP exam, the seal of biliteracy. So all of those things all are together. So she brought up a really good point.
I 100% agree. I think that summer school was a big game changer for a lot of our students. And I do want to recognize that there was something else done this summer that Dr. Gomez did participate in. He was our summer school counselor for the entire time. So he was able to check in with students all summer long at the high school level. And I think, you know, that social emotional aspect of having somebody check on them was absolutely fantastic to have. So we definitely appreciate all the work that he does. And from Ms. Grotham and Ms. Finney's room, who would like to speak?
I was actually nominated before, so I wanted to thank Mrs. Grotham and Mrs. Finney. And I want to say thank you to the entire staff. I've had 2 sons go through. This is our final year, so I'm going to be sad to retire as a Husky parent. But I appreciate all you've done for both of my boys. So with that being said, I approached it from a middle school counselor's perspective, and I thought the Saturday school was really impactful. And I'm thinking, we're noticing gaps when I call kids in about their academics and needing support, that they're struggling with math. And a lot of that has to do with either they weren't attending classes or they didn't understand the instruction via Zoom. And so now we're seeing those huge gaps. And my fear is that when they come into high school and they're going to be in math classes, they're going to be struggling with that. So the idea of maybe starting to take that Saturday school and implement it now in middle school to help relieve some of the gaps or get them caught up, or giving them that time and space to complete assignments so that they go into high school successful. I think that's a key component. When I worked with Susanna at El Cerrito, we did something kind of similar, but we didn't really have the data to back it up. But I'm excited to try it. I do have an intern that is a math teacher here currently, or she's doing like some of her fieldwork hours. So I think I can probably get her on board to come in on Saturdays. And like Mary was saying, I was thinking big picture because we only had 2 teachers sign up for Saturday school. But she's like, well, just why not start small and then watch it grow, and then you'll get more people interested. And I didn't think of it from that perspective. I was thinking about the limitations, but I need to let go of the limitations and just do what I can with what I've got and watch it grow. So thank you.
Absolutely. I will say that when we first decided, okay, we're going to do the Saturday school, we were not prepared for the 75 students that were waiting for us that morning. And they got there before us. They were there at like 7:15, ready to go. Like, let's go, let's get some work done. So it was, and I know Ms. Orozco or Ms. Thompson can speak to how amazing it was just to see all of them there wanting to learn, wanting for the help. And those 4 dozen donuts did go very fast the first time. So we're very thankful that Dr. Burrell has allowed us to buy some Costco food for them to keep them fueled up for breakfast, which I think has made a huge difference as well. All right, and with that, I do want to say goodbye from our whole counseling team. If you have any last words, we're more than happy to listen because we want to hear all of you, but I know your time is valuable and we want to, my goal was to end by 9, I got 9:10. I think that's pretty good this time. So, because Zoom tends to take a little bit of time. Any last words?
No, thank you, and go Huskies on Friday. Woo!
Go Huskies. All right, have a wonderful morning.
Thank you so much.